good morning, everyone. Yesterday was a great day. I don't know how many of you were able to join, but I personally had a lot of fun. All the sessions were really amazing. So today, super excited for everything we have going on for today. But before we get going on anything, I wanted to kick it off with just a small announcement. We're gonna finally get to know who won, yesterday's Shark Tank competition. With that, I turn it over to you guys.
All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. Yesterday, you saw my beautiful face and heard from our 3 Shark Tank pitch contestants. And what a show it was. Now it's time to reveal the winner. Our judges met and came to a very difficult decision on which project deserves the $5,000 cash prize. And now for our winner. Evans exiled from Liberty Sparks in Tanzania for their project, Ujironi Mwema. We are delighted for you, Evans. Congratulations to all our contestants, but Evans is going home with the $5,000 cash prize. We cannot wait to see the impactful, transformative results of this project. Thank you to our judges, thank you to the contestants, and most importantly, thank you to the Smith Family Foundation for making this competition possible. And now, back to the panel.
Well, congratulations, Evan. I'm very excited for you. He's always up to some great work anyway, so great job. Well, we are back, and wanted to thank everybody, Atlas Network, obviously, the partners, our friends, broader friends out there. So this panel I've been waiting for, because whenever we talk about tech on the continent, it's definitely one of the fields that's doing really well. I can see people are getting us to leapfrog all over the place. So some amazing stuff is happening, and you'll hear from some of the leading figures on that today. But then, the goal today is to keep this conversation really candid. We're gonna go into, I was talking to Victor about it earlier. We're gonna go into the good, the true, the good, the ugly. We're gonna talk about everything, and just have that very candid and raw commentaries. So the way we're going to get going is, first, I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to please introduce themselves. And I want us to take no more than 5 minutes to do that, just because we're kind of a full panel here. So 5 minutes. And when you do your presentation, 2 things I would like from you, please. One is to quickly tell us who you are and what you've been involved in most recently, because I know that you guys have been working on tons of stuff. So just who you are, what you've been working on recently. And then I would like for you guys to help me answer this question. You don't have to go too deep into details, but just answer it for now, and then we'll take it from there. The question is, from your standpoint, what is the most important issue that you think tech can fix right now in your country and or in Africa at large? And what is the most important thing that tech, unfortunately, cannot fix at this point in your country and or the continent at large? So with that, I'm going to give the floor to Dami of Shuttlers. Dami, do you want to take it away, please?
Yeah, I was still thinking about your questions, but yeah, I'll wing it.
That's okay.
Okay, so my name is Damilola Lokeshusi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Shuttlers. At Shuttlers, we are solving one of Africa's big challenges, even with other emerging markets as well, face challenge of efficient transportation, right? And we're solving that using shared mobility. We picked shared mobility because we wanted to solve it in a way that was still going to be affordable for commuters. So we focus more on mass transit, bus sharing, sharing between about 15 to 30 people on the same vehicle at once. I've been doing this personally for since 2015. We launched officially in 2016. What we've been doing recently is to scale, looking for how to scale our 115 routes across Abuja and Lagos to thousands of routes still within Nigeria, because we see that we've barely, scratched the surface of the opportunity that we've been able to tap here in Lagos and Nigeria. What challenges do we think that, technology can solve in my part of the world? I think that top 3 things that, technology can solve. First is transportation, because I'm passionate about it. I'm currently doing it. Second is on education. I think it's the bedrock of helping to solve, challenges of, poverty in so many, areas that we see, insecurity, and that can even help people, empower themselves to become, entrepreneurs and empowered. So I think that education, and then the third one is agriculture, because, it's an essential, need for people to have access to food and, to be distributed in a way that, people can have access to it, quickly and, in a fast manner. So those are the top 3 things. What can technology not solve? I think that is human behavior. To an extent, if we want to look at corruption as a problem, right? There's an extent to which technology can go. It can solve, transparency, it can help, but if the human behavior that's supposed to use those technologies are not using it, it can really not, solve that problem, because of, it still takes a human being to still use the application to be able to solve the problem. So, yeah.
Very good point, Dami. Thank you so much. Next, Odun, do you wanna let us know your thoughts on this? And
Sure.
also...
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Odun Ayewini. I'm co-founder and CEO of PiggyVest. PiggyVest is an automated micro savings and micro investment platform in Nigeria. And we essentially help people put aside extremely little amounts of money towards their targets, because a lot of our payments here are done in cash, in bulk, and upfront. I'm also co-founder and general partner at FastJet Africa, which is a pre-seed and seed fund that invests in tech companies with at least 1 female co-founder. What are the big problems that technology can solve? I think it's super boundless, kind of the work that tech can do. But so far, I think for everyone, like here, one of the biggest things that tech does for Africa and Nigeria is connecting us with the rest of the world, right? Pre-2013, Nigeria and Africa was largely cut off from the rest of the world. And now tech has been the one thing that's helped make the world a truly global village. But localizing it, what is the one thing that tech can fix, in addition to Dami's submission around human behavior? I think that tech can enable good governance, but tech cannot fix it. And it's particularly top of mind as Nigeria goes into its 2023 elections. So that will be my answer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Odun. Next, who am I going to pick on? Big Chief, let us know, please.
Thank you, Magat. Okay, my name is Victor Asemota. The way I describe myself these days, I'm a retired entrepreneur, a part-time investor, and full-time parent. So the way I look at tech in Africa is interesting. Odu said something just now about governance. I think Dami also mentioned something about it. I've been involved in public sector projects and private sector projects. Tech can, improve a lot of processes, but it can't change people. The most important place where we need tech in Africa is really, really governance, because everything, policy, everything affects all what we do, and they can't do that without data. And the source of all data, are technology platforms. So sometimes I marvel at the amount of data sitting inside telcos that even the government is not using. So at the end of the day, we have the solution, but we can only take the horse to the stream, but we can't force it to drink water. So Odu was totally spot on. You can't change people. But funny enough, that was my job for over a decade. I was supposed to be a change management consultant. We implemented, SAP and a lot of large-scale platforms for both public sector and private sector. And we had the same problem in both the public and private sector. You'll be surprised that the kind of things that happen in the private sector, while we keep blaming the public sector. There are people who set up companies deliberately just to bleed them. There are people who make sure processes don't work. So it's a very, very big problem in Africa. We need to find a way to get people to actually realize that tech is there to actually optimize everything, not help them steal more.
Wow.
Thank you.
Lots to unpack there when we get to it. Thanks, Big Chief. E, what do you think? E, you're on mute. You're on mute. E, you muted. We can't hear you.
You're muted.
Okay.
No, I don't think he realizes that he's muted.
I know. Let me ask him to unmute. Okay.
Hello.
he does.
Yes, somebody realized finally. Sorry, I was unmuted because I couldn't unmute myself. Awesome. Thank you very much for having me here. My name is E Oluwaboyeji. Everybody calls me E. I'm general partner and CEO at the Fund for Africa's Future, which is a pre-seed and seed fund that takes that partners with entrepreneurs that are turning Africa's biggest challenges into global business opportunities. Prior to that, I worked with quite a number of folks on this call, including Big Chief as CEO of Flutterwave, and also as one of the co-founders of Andela. What can technology solve, right? Technology enables us to deliver value at scale, right? Limitless value at scale. And I think for me, I think the biggest opportunity for Africa with technology is transcending its traditional limitations of geography, political influence, and financial capacity to contribute to the global economy. And I think that tech can take out the major barriers to doing all these things today, right? Barriers like talent, technology can help us train talent for a digital economy without being stuck in traditional notions of education that were really built for factory workers. Technology can help us build infrastructure much smarter, right? In ways that allow us to leverage data to ensure that, we're investing our dollars not as political instruments or reward, but as a proper way, but as a way to invest, in productivity that actually yields a return. Technology can help us fix our markets. We're a continent with a lot of very inefficient markets. It can help us aggregate demand and then again drive profitable infrastructure investments. And then most importantly, technology has the ability to help Africa lead the world in carbon emissions, in reducing carbon emissions and protecting the environment. It's very, 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 very important. That part is extremely important because even if we get all the previous three right and the world disappears, it won't make a difference. What can technology not solve? Technology cannot instill values at scale. So no matter how, and I think it's similar to what the other speakers said, no matter how much technology is influential and powerful, it cannot make people love freedom. If people want to be in bondage, they're going to stay in bondage until they see the light.
Very interesting. Eve, was that your last word on that one, or your? Was that?
That's it.
Well, this is very interesting, you guys. I told you we would try to keep it very real. So what I'm hearing here, and this is funny because yesterday we had a panel where we were talking about the roadmap to prosperity for Africa as a continent, and I was supposed to talk about the part that education could play in this, not just like traditional education, we're talking curriculum and academics, but also more about instilling values in people from a very young age. And I decided yesterday not to go into any of that because I really wanted to give some time to our speakers because both Emmanuel and Emeka had so much to talk about. But I think on this, based on what I just heard from you guys, we might have to go into that. So how about we try to unpack this a little bit? And while we do this, I would encourage everybody, try and see if you can turn your videos on because it just really helps people on the panel if they get to see your face because it just feels like we're closer this way. And at the same time, also any question that pops in your mind, please go ahead and put it in the chat box because we'll deal with that later. So I'm going back because one thing I think I heard every single one of you bring up in terms of what technology cannot fix, at least in your mind, it's this issue around, I think it was Adami who used the word our behavior. I think Odin also piled up on that one. Victor said, you can't change people. And Victor believes that people's, when he says something like that, he's tying it up to governments because for him, people make up the governance. And then I think I heard the same thing about E, but E was talking about you can't make people love freedom if you don't want to, also values. So what do we think is going on here? How do we think we got here? And how do we think that could be solved? Open forum for my panel. Just remember to unmute yourself, put your hand up so I know we're not all talking at the same time, and then unmute yourself and let's go. Who wants to say? And I'm not seeing, yeah. So could we unpack this? Because I'm loving that this is coming on this conversation. Let's unpack. What's going on and how do you think we got here? And most importantly, how do we get out of this?
All right, so
I think Odi wants to go ahead.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So I think that a lot of these conversations now is just kind of emblematic of where we are globally, not just Africa. If you look at how we've historically approached tech, it's been kind of a zero sum, this thing will save us. And then over the recent years, we've now been grappling with kind of like the moral, ethical question around technology, right? How much power is too much power in the hands of technology companies? And what are the things that tech can enable sustainably and what are the things that it can't? And so there's been this kind of, advancements in technology will save us and all of that. But we've quickly realized from all of the challenges we've seen with Facebook, Google, and from when you localize it, just how much tech can enable, but how much it also kind of exacerbates what's on ground. So I think the world as a whole is kind of realizing that tech doesn't fix things. What it does is accelerate what is already existing. So if inequality is existing, tech will increase it. If equality exists, tech helps, as you can see in the case of the Nordic countries. If there is an existing wireframe for building a country that works, using tech will enable it. If there is a country that's corrupt, using tech only enables what's on ground. And so that slow but sure realization is why we've started to think, does tech really change people? It doesn't. What it does is exactly what we've always seen it to do, exacerbating what's on ground and just kind of widening like the existing situation. If you look at much of this was around like Web3, for instance, right? When we started talking about Web3, the attention was around how it makes Web2 better, it makes everything better. But in the past 6 months, what we've seen is that it makes bad processes worse. It makes good processes better. So there's still a lot of work around investing in people, right? Who will build existing like good foundations to then be enabled with technology versus thinking that we can solve all problems from like basal fundamental levels with tech.
Thanks so much, Odun. Victor, did you want to say something about that? Or if not, I think I'm.
Yeah, yeah, no, audience right. There's something that when I was at Hallam in school in England, in our knowledge management course, they said something that all core competence over time becomes a threshold competence when tech starts optimizing things. Then the reverse is also the case. All core incompetence also become threshold incompetence when it's also doing it the other way around. Because like what we are becomes optimized. You know, you see all of the troll activity on social media. Yesterday, this whole debt forgiveness thing in the US, I started seeing different views. Now, freedom of speech is very, very good, okay? But people can also take it to extremes, you know, and tech reveals all of that, you know. And when it comes to processes, it can also do the reverse. So in Africa, we have to be very, there's this dissonance that we have in Africa, which has not really been addressed fully. Who do we have allegiance to? Do we have allegiance to our laws? Do we have allegiance to our customs? Do we have allegiance to our communities? Do we have allegiance? No. So now in Africa, those things are the real problem. There's a whole lot of dissonance, and people weaponize a whole lot of things. If you look at all of the conflicts in Africa today, what should have been our strength is what people weaponize, you know, to cause conflicts. You know, the things that should make us proud, our communities, our, you know, ethnicity. Look at Rwanda, look at all of the violence that happened in Rwanda, just because people are from separate ethnic groups. You know, so that is the core problem we still have. And, you know, it boils down to identity. You know, there's something I did, you know, I did this Ancestry.com test some years back. I did it in 2019. At that time, he said I was 100% Nigerian. Now they gave me a revised update recently. I'm now no longer 100% Nigerian. I'm now partly from Benin Republic and Togo, okay? That is tech that's telling me now that my identity is now different. You know, you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, I know a lot of people kicked against it for privacy reasons. No, I did it because I wanted to know a whole lot more about myself. My wife was the most interesting one. All this time she thought she was from Ghana. Guess what? When she checked her genetic makeup, she has like 55% of her genes from outside Ghana. You know what I'm saying? I know somebody, a friend of mine, who thought he was Nigerian, now discovered that he was like 45% Senegalese, you know, 25% Malian, and only 15%. You know, like, you know, these things are very, very interesting. These are the kind of things that you do with data that can actually change the way, you know, the bad things that have been encoded in us over time. Those are the kind of things that I think tech over time will change. If we start knowing who we really are and how closely knit we are, you know, a lot of things that we've been carrying as burdens won't matter anymore.
This is Thank you, Victor. That's very interesting. So if I'm understanding you correctly, the case that you're making is we still have many issues around, you know, people's identities. And let's just go ahead and call it, in our case, you know, you belong to such and such tribe, you belong to such and such group, you know, ethnic group. And so, Victor, you're saying that if we had more data, the data almost could help us transcend the artificial borders that were in a way left behind, you know, by colonization in a way. So precisely,
because like I think that most of, you know, you hit the nail on the head now. A lot of Africa's problems are those borders. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't make sense at all. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very, very good point. Anybody else wants to build up on that, or
Sure.
go ahead?
Yeah, I wanted to point back. I mean, my colleagues have spoken very eloquently about the people landscape, as we can call it. But I mean, there are aspects of it I agree with. There are many aspects I don't agree with. I mean, I think, for example, technology has definitely changed our behavior. You know, just 4 years ago, it would be unthinkable to have a conference like this without all of us being in a single place. So technology can change behavior, right? Like now it's, you know, I'm in Redemption Camp in Lagos, and we're all in different places, and we're all having a conference. You know, just 3-4 years ago, this wouldn't be how we put together the Africa Liberty Forum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that said, when we talk about the question of values and what has happened in tech, I think it's a slightly different question from thinking technology can solve everything. I think the problem is technology started out with purpose. It started out with an intention, and that is what's built into the core of the internet, right? The Unix frameworks, the open source frameworks, the fact that it was supposed to be technology to set us free. That was a core, that was the beginning of the internet. Unfortunately, as Wall Street got involved, and even worse, as more kind of like California liberals got involved in tech, it became less about that, about freedom for the individual, and it became more about political statements and and all sorts of everything else, but actually about the individual and creating tools and products that can help the individual to be more productive individuals by leveraging man-machine symbiosis. And I think that's why tech is where it is today, because it lost its way. I don't think it's because tech can't solve our society's problems, but because the people who started out tech, the Wozniaks of the world, the core hobbyists, who were building this industry in a way that engendered freedom, and not to build billion-dollar companies, but really to just help humanity progress, got edged out of the equation. And now you just have mercantilists up and down, everywhere. And this brings me back to the question of values in Africa, right? Like, again, the opposite of what some of my colleagues have said. We've changed in Africa, right? We've changed because we've been conditioned to change, and that's at the foundation of our problems. The truth is, we were built to be in communities, not in nation states, right? We were governed in communities for a very long time. Unfortunately, when the natural desire for conquest started to rise, and the desire to put more and more people in bondage and build empires crept up, that is what destroyed our communities, right? Because we lost our freedom. And the reality is, unless we go back to what African communities used to be, which were, small tribes, we traded with each other, right? I think we're going to continue to lose our way. And when I say small tribes trading, I'm not saying go back to your village. I'm just saying that you're prioritizing your economic interests over everything else.
Mm. Thank you, E. Very interesting. Demi, I'm tempted to ask you, do you agree with E? Because it seems like you guys are not having the same definition of behavior. I think, Demi, when you used the word behavior, you were mentioning that maybe that's not what you were thinking about. So what, are you agreeing, not agreeing? What are you thinking about this?
Yeah, I was, trying to even think about it, even currently at Shotlers. So when we create, like Odun said, is an enabler really of what currently exists, for you to scale what currently exists. So we try, so for our system to, for us to successfully move about 20 to 30 people at the same time, about 5 stakeholders need to communicate with each other. So you have the driver, you have the bus captain, you have the operations admin person, and you have the passengers, right? And we've noticed that the driver behavior would determine if the tech is used or not, right? So that is what I meant by human behavior, right? It's dependent on if they would use it or not for that system that we've created to be useful, right? So that is the context with which I was saying that it cannot solve, it cannot, push, it cannot force the driver to use the, technology without any form of, maybe technology is not advanced, to use AI to, incentivize him to use it or reward him for not.
But Dami, was the technology
something like that? But
he wait for Dami to finish.
Was the technology designed for him to use it?
He wait for Dami to finish. One person speaks, the other one listens. Dami, please finish. We'll get back to you.
Yeah. So at the same time, right, I was watching a video yesterday, I think an old video about, previous President Yar'Adua, saying how he wanted to solve corruption using technology, where he was going to use, a platform, to monitor people's, accounts, their family trace their accounts and be able to, solve corruption using technology, right? And I was like, okay, so when they spend money using that technology or installing technology, will it be used? How would you ensure that you incentivize or the human behavior or the people that are trying to, use that technology for will use it, right? So that's, that context. But I agree with Inyi saying that, technology has influenced our lifestyle, how we behave, and it can further influence and it can further actually influence governance or whatnot. It's technology that would help us get to that place, that would influence maybe the intelligence or that would build technology that would solve that problem. But as I said, right now, I think that, there's a level to which technology can, go in solving this kind of, problems that we currently have.
Thank you, Dami. Eve, you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, I think most of the time we say technology cannot influence behavior because we didn't design it to influence behavior. Like, if you wanted the driver to use the technology, was the technology actually designed for the driver to use it, right? And for the technology to influence his behavior. 15 years ago, people weren't looking on their phones until technology started to build these really addictive algorithms throughout social media that basically made you glued to your phone because we moved from news feeds to streams in every aspect of our lives. Everything was automated and continued to allow you to figure out, to hack what you like, what you dislike, and kind of move you along those lines. These are all solvable problems. And I feel like every time we say technology cannot change behavior, I'm like, what do you think has been happening over the last 20 years that has built all these billion-dollar companies? Basically, it's technology being used to change our behavior. And now we're doing things that, even as little as 2-3 years ago, we would never have done. So I actually don't agree at all with the idea that technology cannot change behavior. The question is, what is technology being designed to do today, right? Is it being designed to change behavior positively for the benefit of society? Or is it being designed to just make money? And I think what you'll find is in 95% of the cases, it's the latter.
Thank you. Odan, question for you. Because I heard all the great things that technology is all the great issues that technology is helping us fix. And it's been an amazing progress on the continent. From where you stand, because I have to tell you, I'm quite worried about the threats to technology and its advances on the continent. especially with Nigeria and the way the Nigerian government wants to go about technology. I know that you've been leading some efforts to try to make sure that when the lawmakers sit down and make laws that will affect what you guys are able to do or not technology-wise, that you would be at the table and try to represent, the tech side. Are you guys seeing threats there? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm seeing major threats. Odun, is it something that you've been, what would you tell us about that? Is it
Right.
even, or is it fixed?
No, I think we have a ways to go when it comes to kind of being in the ideal space for government interference in technology, right? And there's several schools of thought around how much regulation and how much involvement should the government really have in how tech moves, right? And I think it's hard to kind of pick a side. I, for instance, don't think that there's anything wrong with technology being used to make money. I think that's what it should be used to do. I just think that you shouldn't do it eschewing kind of like building comfort and human values. I think that there is a midpoint for all of these things. And using Nigeria as an example, right? In 2016, when Paystack launched and we had like this new wave of fintech, right? The relationship and kind of like conversations with government officials around regulating or not regulating fintech was barely there, right? In 2022, we feel slightly more confident around knowing who to call when you want to build something new, you want to figure out regulation. You can even influence some of them, as Ian and a bunch of people are doing with the Nigerian Startup Bill, right? So there's been a lot of progress. We're not where we need to be, but there's been a lot of progress. But like conversely, there's also been, I suppose, like excesses, and that's only fixed by communication. I think everyone on either side, regulator and people, is right to kind of be, I don't know if fear is the right word, or suspicious or conscious of the moves that the other party is making, because it's not necessarily in your best interest, but I think that we can't find the balance. And so I'm not necessarily afraid of anything being broken. I think that we can fix most of these things with communication and us kind of picking the right leaders, right? I think that at its core, it's always going to be a pull and push, right? Innovation will always precede, go ahead of regulation. Regulation will always have to play catch up to innovation, right? So who's driving the regulation? Are there enough people with the understanding? Are we reaching across like the table to kind of educate the stakeholders? Sometimes, look, what I've learned is being an entrepreneur, I want to go forward, right? I want to build this new thing. Regulators are much slower in that, how do we protect the people? How do we protect the status quo? So if you're going to change the status quo, you're going to have to do a lot more talking and hand-holding than you bargained for. And that's the one thing that's kind of been hard for us as entrepreneurs to wrap our heads around. I know that I was slow on the uptake as well. So what I have is not like a particular fear of anything like being broken. I think that processes will be slow. I think that some people will be stumped as well, but I think that we're making some progress. We're not anywhere where we need to be. And honestly, there is a bunch of things to kind of be really concerned about. But if you kind of compare those potential concerns with the milestones that we've managed to hit, I think it's a net positive for now.
Interesting. Yeah, and I hear your point. But you said something, Odun, that always makes, I know, my antennas go up. It's like when you say the regulators are there to protect the people. And then that's when I'm always tempted to remind people, who are these regulators, right? And in one sentence, I hear us complain about governance, especially on the continent. And trust me, I think governance, that's a problem that's not just with us, but I think sometimes we have manifestations of bad governance that are way more sharp on our continent than maybe in other places. So when I hear in one sentence, we're complaining about governance, and but on the other sentence, I'm hearing, oh, the regulators are here to protect us. Then I'm just like, are we not talking about the same people? I mean, what? So I don't know. For me, that's pretty much where I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I know. I definitely see what you're doing, what you're saying, because it's the dissonance, right? But that's the thing. It's a chicken and egg problem. Right, there will be people who will occupy regulators' jobs whose job is to protect the people, right? But there's also the like other side of the equation. Who are those people and are they good people? Which is the other side of picking the right leaders, right? And so it represents a chicken and egg problem where you have to kind of fix one to be able to get an optimal result in the other. And for Africa, the solution is not as straightforward in terms of how exactly do you make sure that when you exercise your like democratic right once every 4 years, the person who you're putting there is a person who puts your interest as a populace first and then helps regulate the people, like regulate like the innovators to protect you. So it's not, I think, a question that you can have one direct answer to, but certainly a question that exists.
Yeah, no, I guess like for me personally, my tendency is to really try to make sure that I am not dependent on anybody's good behavior, enlightenment or no enlightenment. So this is why, I mean, you know, for us, we're just thinking, can we have strong institutions that are as strong as possible, where things are so clear and straightforward that wherever you come and you're the devil, you have very little, you know, input.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like that's more where we should be, you know, that's what I'm more interested in.
I
I'm
agree.
really not interested in being person in and he's going to protect us.
I think,
yeah.
I think that that's the one thing that maybe a country like the United Kingdom has gotten right.
Yeah.
And they may be like kind of slipping now, so maybe not like a great example, but they've gotten that right in that they have strong institutions and not strong men. And I think that's the one aspect of I's argument that I'd actually agree with, is if we focused on using technology to build like the right systems, then it wouldn't matter who occupied it. But the truth is that's an ideal position in when you're like thinking about Africa. It's just not real, like it's not yet. And
But
so like we have a ways to go to get there, and to get there, to build those strong institutions, we still need to find the right people.
We can thrive there. All
Yeah.
right, so I'm getting some, thanks so much, Odan. So I'm getting some people, Ita is like, my God, can we join in the conversation? Yes, it is now. We're turning it over to the audience. So what we want is just raise your hand, and I think Ita, you were first, so we're gonna go with you, but remember, because we're starting late on questions. So one question, very direct, and then let your panelists answer, please. Go ahead, Ita, it's yours. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, and great discussion. I think so. This session really, I think, Makate possibly just needed us to possibly go back to Africa's problems, and the question was whether technology could actually assist us in solving Africa's problems. So I'll just give you a clear example that here in Zimbabwe and Southern Africa, we like egusi, you know, fufu, and West African food. But if I were to buy this food, I have to order it from London. Just imagine. If I want a visa to come to Senegal, I have to go to the French embassy here in Harare, pay the French, and my flight can't take me to Dakar directly. I have to go to Spain or to France. But because of COVID-19 and the immigration crisis between Africa and Europe, I have to get a French transit visa or a Spanish transit visa. And when I'm at the airport, I can't, you know, get out of the airport. So I think these are the contextual challenges which Iyi and Victor and Damiola were trying to reflect on. But I think the challenge really there is that Africa is not talking to itself. We are not talking to ourselves as Africans. We have a challenge of, say, hunger in East Africa, in Ethiopia. Currently, the World Food Program is looking for food, you know, for Ethiopia, but there's plenty of bananas and food, not even governments. As here, why can't we cobble up like 30 tons of food from West Africa and just ship it across to Ethiopia and save some people? You know, and I think that's the power of technology. And I think that once we start talking to each other as Africans at an individual level, forget about our governments.
Is it me or are we having issues hearing the tape properly? His connection is probably unstable. Or is it just
To
me?
our government, Nigeria. I think this discussion was basically that I think information,
Yeah.
people to people, you know, is very clear. Agriculture, education, health.
Okay. Ite, your connection is very unstable, but I think we're getting the gist of what you're trying to say.
Market as well. They speak Portuguese.
Okay. Ite,
You know?
yeah, no, yes. So thank you so much. I think we heard the gist of what you wanted to say. Thank you. Anyone else has any question for our wonderful panel here? And I'm not seeing hands. So somebody has their hand. Freeman, go ahead, please. And let's try to have a short question so that as many people talk as they can.
Thank you so much. My question goes on, the issue of Africa. Can new technologies help solve African problems? African problems have been mainly hinged on misplaced priorities. Hence, my question to the panel is, how best can we ensure that African countries can receive those technologies that positively contribute to Africa's development? Because lately, in the past 5 years, we've seen a surge in the deployment of arms in Africa, especially in when the Tigrayan conflict erupted in Ethiopia, and peaceful countries like Zimbabwe receiving arms shipments from the Far East. Yet it's grappling with a surging energy crisis due to the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Then I say, how best can we ensure that that technology that positively contributes to Africa's prosperity is, shipped to the continent, rather than these destructive technologies that are hinged on causing destruction and further, regression in Africa's development? How can we ensure that?
Thank you, Freeman. Thank you, Freeman. Who wants to take this question on, please, guys?
One of the things that I'm particularly passionate about is making sure that the way we approach technology is with purpose, right? As with a goal, with a point of view, because you've got this powerful tool that can help you make anything. And then, you can't afford to waste the technology by training it on inconsequential problems. And when you talked about some things that are really exciting, and are actually, if you look at the history of technology and venture capital in the US, one of the things you've got to give to the US, the way the US became, the most productive economy on the planet, and the largest economy on the planet, is by really training its focus on its real problems, not, how do I defend myself? How do I feed myself? Not building technology for, fanciness, but really solving fundamental problems. And for example, in our portfolio, you're talking about the shortage of wheat as a result of Russia and Ukraine crisis. And we started investing and looking very deeply into investing in the cassava value chain as an alternative to wheat, right? And we've actually looking very closely at a number of companies and technologies that can enable the preservation of food, for example, because that's a big reason why it's not possible to just airlift bananas from countries to Ethiopia, even though they want food. But really, and I think that as the trend starts to become less about investing in what I call apps and APIs, which I think are just a waste of talent and resources, to really investing in real problems that require science, technology, and innovation to solve. And so now we move away from the marking scheme being about valuations. I know it's highly hypocritical given my background, but being about valuations and about how much money you can push around, and being more about how many people's lives you can impact and how much you're growing Africa's contribution to global GDP per capita, then you start to see something real happen. So I think it's really a challenge for technology companies and for the capital that backs them up, right? Because those people are really the ones that make the decisions about what the country's priorities will be. And if it's about social media, then we're not really ready.
Thank you, E. Sholan, unless somebody wants to add something to it. Victor?
No, I want to say something. So this whole thing about trade, intra-African trade and all of that. Yes, they've set up the AFCFTA, and all of that. And a lot of times we think that policy is what should actually change, but we don't realize that trade is already happening. As far back as 2008, I remember the USAID trying to do a project on the Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria corridor. They wanted to formalize transactions along that corridor. And they told me that, look, every year there's $10 billion of trade going on along that corridor. I said, $10 billion? They said, yes, informally. Now, a lot of these things already happen informally. And they're just not captured, And so why are they happening informally, and why are people evading, channels where the data can be captured? It's also because of these bad policies. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, people don't want to be taxed unfairly. People don't want people to become stumbling blocks. I live in both Togo and Ghana. I see the volume of trade that happens between both countries, but a lot of that is not captured. The problem we have in Africa with a lot of things is because at the heart of it all, there's a lot of distrust for those in power. And the reason why there's a lot of distrust for those in power, because they make a lot of policies without actually having data on what the impact of those policies are going to be. Okay, and if we have to make technology change all of that, the people at those levels have to also really be honest about using real data to actually do a lot of stuff. Now, I'm not holding my breath and waiting for them. Things are happening otherwise. Okay, the private sector has gone ahead. As I don't know whether it was Yolowa or Odun that mentioned it earlier about, if you look at tech in America, okay, it started out for the open source systems were for the public good, okay? Before people started building things that could actually help them get rich, on top of it, okay? Now, the problem we have in Africa is that a lot of people are not building things for the public good. We are starting from the reverse. We are starting from, trying to get rich first and not building things that everybody can actually share and use. That corridor, that trade along that corridor, I'm sure that it has increased over 10 times since 2008. Nobody is thinking that, okay, look, if I build something along that corridor, even if I don't capture all of the value, and I capture just a little bit of the value, it can actually help all other people. I remember, was it Chamat that said something about when Facebook went to Microsoft, Bill Gates, sorry, to get some investment from them, and they were calling themselves a platform. Bill Gates said, no, they're not a platform. But a true platform does not capture all of the value of what it has created. You know, it only takes a little bit of value and creates exponential value for others. Those are the kind of things that we're not building. That's what our problem. Everything and capture all of the value. You don't want to build something for the public good where more people can get value than you will get. So that's where the basic problems are.
Thank you, Big Chief. I totally see those.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're running out of time, but because he's been waiting so patiently, we have some questions in the chat. But Sholan, I'll give you the last question, please. Try to make it short because we're running out of time, but I really wanted to make sure we let you talk because you've been waiting. Remember to unmute yourself, please. Just Sholan, you unmute yourself, please.
There we go. Someone just unmuted me for me. Thank you. So my name is Sholan, and I work at the South African Institute of Great Legends, and we do a lot of research on like socioeconomic analysis and how things are actually looking in South Africa. And my concern, especially with like the introduction of technology like artificial intelligence, as great as it is and all the advancement it will bring, is that what we see, whether it's in the financial services sector or it's in manufacturing, that it replaces human labor. And I just want to get a gauge from you guys, just to get your thoughts on what do you guys think about, like, especially the impact it will have that human labor will no longer be needed. And in Africa, especially in South Africa, we have a massive youth unemployment in the country. And what things like artificial intelligence will require is not human input anymore, especially when it comes to things like manufacturing. So do you guys really think that it's all beneficial? Or what can we do to exactly, lessen the impact or the unemployment impact of the advancement of technology like AI? Yeah.
Thank you, Sholan. Who wants to answer to that?
Yeah, so I wanted to give a little bit of answer to that. So I totally agree with you. I share this same notion about it not being all good, all positives for the solutions that technology can bring. And I'll give an example. So I traveled for a program about the future of mobility, and all of the things I was seeing there was electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles that don't need human beings to drive them, right? So that's another form of AI. And I was wondering, why would you want to scale unemployment in a country like in a region like Africa, where we need more people to drive vehicles, we need more employment through drivers. Why would you want to scale technologies that does not need human being? Because you want to increase the efficiency or maybe safety or the driving efficiency. And I think that at least for now, emerging countries, emerging cities, or places like Nigeria or African countries are not ready for that type of technology yet, till the fundamental problems are solved, like unemployment, poverty, security, and good governance and the likes. And while we will see some regions, they're already ready for that type of technology, right? Because they've fixed some of the problems that we still have. Some regions are not ready for those type of technology. So it's really it's on the usage, right? Who is going to use it? Are we ready to use it? And who are people that are currently ready to use it?
Thank you, Demi. Victor, you wanted to add something real quick?
Yes, there's this misconception that when you are doing AI, you need less people. You actually need more, because you need huge data sets and you need training. And you have to keep updating that data too as well. AI is not going to magically just going to go grab the data. There's a company I'm on the board of now, Place. We're creating a data repository of images of actual locations, in the emerging market. Now, every year, in fact, twice a year, people have to update that data. There are people on ground who have to actually go and actually capture that data. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, net, if you look at what to solutions like AI do, they actually create more jobs. Maybe you may reduce jobs in one place, but you create more jobs in other places. So I think that we should be mindful, because like the world is moving forward. Technology is optimizing a whole lot of things, okay? But at the end of the day, it's also still creating new types of jobs. I would give the example of, I think it was Wave in Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire, recently. Wave is creating ways for people to do more e-commerce. The agent networks are crying because people can't go there to exchange cash anymore. That was something that was meant to go. You know what I'm saying?
I love Wave. Wave has saved my life. I'm telling you, it's been the best thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So why are we still talking about? Funny enough, yes, those agent networks. Yeah, I was one of the people that started it in 2014. But now I know that it's time for them to die. And people are willing to let them go. And I'm saying, look, we actually, there's something. Leke, one of the founders of Flutter, he told me something one day, and it actually really shocked me. He said, we do not have enough e-commerce transactions for the number of payment companies that we have. We need to actually create more e-commerce, and create more, create more digital transactions in Africa for us to be able to have all of this. We are funding and creating a lot of payment companies, but we're not creating the commerce, the digital commerce to go with it. So, if we're still stuck in the manual ways, we're still trying to do cash, we will never get there. So jobs are going to change. Things are going to evolve. New markets are going to be created. Whether it's with AI or any other type of technology, I think we just have to learn how to create those new markets with tech in Africa. So that's what we should look at, not be afraid of what AI and all the others will do. Thanks.
Thank you, Victor. On that note of let us not be afraid, let us embrace change and innovation. I want to thank each one of you guys. This was a really fun conversation as far as I'm concerned. It was really cool. And I thank you for having been so open and just, real about your observations and comments. I appreciate that. Thank you so much again. And we're going to let everybody go and get a little break. And then, the rest of the program starts in, I think, in 10 minutes. Thanks again, you guys.